Today's Wednesday and it's Anita's knitting day today, so she goes and meets her friends at the ship in Portals. So I've come down to Puerto Portal just to have a look at the boats and see what's in, see what it's like down here. Not been down for quite a while and it's really hot. I've come quite early, well it's after 10:30 now, so it's getting late, and just going to have a quick walk around just to have a look at what's going on. Usually on that far wall across there's usually some big boats in, but they've obviously left for the day and no big boats in. And the one across the road, that's a lifeboat, which will go and help you if you get into trouble. That's one of the rescue boats. We're just going to have a little walk around. There's a nice big catamaran there. In years gone by, there's many years I suppose, just on the end here, the first boat used to be quite often the Fortuna, and the Fortuna was the then King of Spain's boat, the King Juan Carlos, and it was quite often here. You could see it moored there, usually somebody keeping you at a distance. But this end of the port is always with the bigger boats. It was nice. And so it's from Hull. Always interesting to see where the boats are actually based. And their little toys that they've got on the back. Of course, it's high season now, it's August, so many of the boats will be out on the high seas, so they'll see gaps like this in the port, and boats getting prepared to go out for the day or longer. These sort of boats can spend quite a bit of time out at sea. So now is the perfect time, I think, to be out at sea. It's really been very warm since we've been back from the UK, with temperatures reaching the high 30s. Georgetown, London, these are the places where these boats are registered. Another one, London. Usually you do get the name and then where they're registered, but where they're registered doesn't mean a great deal really, because the boats, I'm sure those boats don't go back to London. And this one's from Valletta. Maybe it goes to there. And then you have the fancy cars that are always alongside here as well. Barracuda, it's a nice one. I can actually say where that one is. There's one Qatar 2, registered in Georgetown. Qatar's going to be in the news a lot with the World Cup later on this year, disrupting our football. Here's one, look. Got a big advertising sign, a little deck on the back you can go and sit on. Pearl. We used to live in Portals and House many years ago. It's over 20 years ago now. It's quite frightening. And so walking down to the port was something we did quite regularly. Walk alongside some of these boats, you start to see just how big they are. Advertising here for a sunset market. Lots of bars, restaurants, early in the day, so lots of places are just getting cleaned up, ready for the rest of the day. And well, the water is pretty clear. If I look down I can actually see the bottom, so not too bad. And some children here throwing bread to the fish. That's always a good sign, isn't it, when there's lots of fish in the water. There's plenty down there. Seagulls. You always have the seagulls picking up the scraps. There's Flanagan's, one of the posh restaurants around here. I've actually seen the King of Spain dining in there in the past. And then just in front, slightly to my left, is Wellies, which is one of the originals, one of the places that started this port all those years ago when we first came to the island. This port didn't exist, so it was built after we got here. So we actually watched them lorry load by lorry load bringing the rocks down to build the port. A bit too hot today for me to walk up and down all of the jetties, but you get some impression now just by the ones we've seen as we head towards the sun. The boats get smaller. Here's another pearl. This one's a 62. A little bit smaller than the ones we've just seen. And so as we walk towards Ritzy in front of us, each of the legs that goes out host boats which get smaller and smaller as we go to the end. And we couldn't even afford the one on the end, not this end, the far end where they've got little dinghies. But it's nice to come down and have a look. I need to speak to some of the people who work down here, and they say, "Oh, you didn't go down and video my boat." This is an interesting looking colour. Interesting colour, interesting looking boat. Something a bit different. Just noticing the heat. It's called Tiffany, and it actually registered here in Puerto Portal. Very interesting. Absolute from Amsterdam. So all along here we've got restaurants, bars. Behind there'll be a few different shops. It's mostly restaurants along the front here. And it's a great place to come in the evening if you like to people watch. You think, do I recognise that person? Are they a footballer, or do they appear in this soap opera? Many of them do. But of course, all of these boats require people to work on them. So you'll find that people who actually work on the boats work in the restaurants, shops, sales offices. They all frequent the bars as well. You might be able to see now that the boats as we walk along are getting progressively smaller and smaller. I wish the temperature was. These little speedboats, I quite like these. Something we've never really been into or been able to be into. Put these right in the middle where you can't walk. Squeeze past. And this is more or less where the port ended, and just beyond here we had the shipyards, and they've actually extended the port a little over the last few years to include I think a few more berths for smaller craft, and the hard standing for storage of boats and repairs has been pushed back a little bit. But the thing it has allowed is more shops, more places for people to get rid of their money, and really obscurely quirkily they've installed an underground car park. So underneath the block on my left is actually an underground car park. You see how high the water is on the right. It just must be below sea level. So it's quite a clever bit of engineering. Not sure how they've done it, but we've been down there. It's a big car park, so if there's no room on the top, there's possibly room along the bottom. And we get towards the end now. This is where you find the smaller craft. In fact, some very small craft there. You've got some sea-doos, jet skis that whiz along. And at the very end, I'm not sure, can't see anybody walking on the wall, but used to be able to walk up on the wall, along the seawall. That was always quite nice, but it's very, very exposed. So not something I'm going to be doing today. But there's also a way to get to the beach and back, obviously. So the big rock face in front of us is protected by wire mesh. So rocks do fall down there. But if we can see, there is a little pathway that goes down to the beach. I'm not going that way. I'm going to actually walk through the middle. Bar's quite busy. I'm guessing most of the people in this one are probably people who are working down here, and they've just nipped off their 11s. It's 1:45 now. So this door in front of us is actually the way down to the car park. So you go down there and you've got a car park, and this is behind the shops. Some more shops down here, a little bit of a fountain area, pizza area. All of this has been developed considerably since I was last down here, because most of these places were not open. That's fun for the children, a little bit of water splashing around. It also has the effect of cooling the air around here, because the water evaporates. It cools the air just around where we're walking, where we're standing. So good, but there's a lot of evaporation, and water's in fairly short supply in most of Europe. So I've not heard of any restrictions at all here in Majorca. Majorca doesn't seem to have any restrictions. The reservoirs are normal at the moment. They're not full, but they're not empty either. I'll just wander up the steps and walk down the middle, where it's much more shaded. You can see how they've got all the tables out here ready for lunch or probably evening meals. It's nice to see the Chinese restaurant some of us talk about. Chinese restaurant somewhere we used to come New Year's Eve, and we'd always come with some friends. And if you come to there's a market in the evenings here. These are the market stalls, so I'm not giving this justice now, just walking through here. But here are market stalls which will be set up for the evening fair. And you can see all along the right you've got the restaurants and lots of places where they sell, service, look after boats. I'm so glad I can actually walk in the shade. Here's the nice water feature that they've got here, and a recent addition to the water feature in the last couple of years, I suppose. This table, say, buy your tapas or drinks, and you can come and stand by the water. And some of these stalls will actually be selling food and drink like that. Very much one of the in places to be in the Mediterranean. Well, I seem to have most of it to myself today. Ooh, I know why. So we've got the window cleaners cleaning the windows, but some people in the bars, restaurants already having that late breakfast or early lunch or a bit of both. The market's referred to as the sunset market in Puerto Portals, so just as it's going dusk would be a good time to come and have a look at this. Not sure how long it's going to be running for. There's no signs giving us very much indication of that. There it just says it's summertime, live music, summer cocktails, and there's a sunset kids zone. Just going to head back towards the car now. Let me go. Thank you very much. So since we've come back from the UK, we had beautiful weather while we were there in the UK, and really hot weather. When we first came back it was a little bit cooler in Mallorca, but the temperature's certainly gone up again. And looking at the weather forecast, we've still got some quite high temperatures to come, but possibly by this weekend, Friday, Saturday, we could be having some of the thunderstorms, which are quite typical at the end of August or the beginning of September. And in past years we've normally had rain around about the last couple of days of August. We always remember that because it's Lara's birthday, and we'd be organising a party and we'd get a few spots of rain or more. And quite often on the first days back to school we'd have some really heavy storms, and my car is actually covered with dents from the hailstones that have hit it, sort of the size of big marbles, probably just about as hard as the big marbles as well. Lots of dents on my car, and did read about people whose windscreens had been shattered by the hailstones. Luckily that didn't happen to me, just a few dots. Somebody's alarm's going off. We had a walk along the front in Palma a few days ago, and we were looking at the big boats there, some really big ones moored. One in particular that caught my eye was called Tiffany, and it's on the video, or at least from a distance it's on the video. It's not the best shot I've got of it, but Tiffany is owned by a couple who own the Range, which for those of you who live in the UK probably know it as one of these big stores, usually on some outlet site out of town. It sells just about anything and everything. The owners of that have got a boat bigger than this one, I think, called Tiffany, and they're here for the summer, here at the moment, or at least the boat is. Yes, so that's more or less it. We've done a quick round of the Port of Portals. Well, I'm not going to quite finish yet because I'm going to walk over the road. And that's how one half lives, and I'll just show you how the other half lives. So, Portals is very well known for its rich and famous people, and those that arrive, and it's expensive. So if you can't afford a mooring in the Port of Portals, then you can always moor just outside, and I guess that doesn't cost you anything. So quite a lot of boats here moored just outside the port. And there's one in the distance. That's marine land over there. But there's one in the distance that must have slipped its mooring. And there's a little beach here, quite a few people on the sandy beach, just below the apartment block there. And lots of people in the sea. That's probably the place to be to escape the heat. But I'm just going to get my other camera out and I will get a close-up of that boat that's hit the rocks. So I've got my other camera out now so I can actually come round and we can have a look at what's actually out there. There's a boat that must have lost its moorings or some other mishap, but that's caused it to end up on the rocks. I don't know how long this one's been here, but it might be the one that I saw from Marineland when we were at Marineland in July, I think it was. Probably is. So it's been there for quite a long time, and it's surprising nobody's actually done anything about that, either the owners or the authorities, who clearly won't want any pollution getting into the sea. It reminds me of one, I was looking at some photographs of Palma Nova, and there was actually a boat that ran aground there, and it didn't look to me to be in that bad a condition initially. It gradually got broken up a bit, and certainly got a lot of graffiti on it, but that was left there for months and months on end, if not years. It was there for a very long time, and the owners never came to retrieve it, and eventually the authorities did come, and they didn't try to refloat it, they didn't try to put it back in the water. They actually took it away on the back of a lorry. So I guess that's what's going to happen to this one. It's a little bit more difficult to get to because there's no easy access for a lorry. So I'm guessing that one's going to have to be retrieved from the seaside. So some heavy lifting gear is going to have to come and take that away eventually. Just panning around. So in the distance there you've got Palma Nova, and eventually Magaluf. So I've got no Anita with me to say goodbye at the moment. Anita's with her friends in Portal's House, the knitting group, knitting and nattering. I'll be joining her shortly. But that's it from me. Thanks very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. So bye for now.